I'll call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock Monday evening, November 22nd, 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have 20 items on this evening's agenda, and I will ask the City Clerk to please read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, November 8th, 2021.
Councilor Tenera.
Mr. President, accept and place on file.
Motion's made and seconded to accept and place on file. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved 11-0.
Council President Ossing, an update from Mayor Vigent regarding COVID-19.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Obviously, everyone's been watching the news and hearing the updates, and we're not an exception. Our numbers are up since my last update to you. They're up to 104 right now, which is actually down over the last week. We've been running 120 to 130 over the last week, but we're down to 104 cases. Our positivity rate is 3.58%. The hospitals is actually much lower than that. It's just over 1%, but overall for the city, we're running about 3.58%. Up at the hospital, we have 7 patients up there right now. 3 are breakthrough patients. So we keep an eye on that also. The schools, right now we have 34 students in different schools that are 34 school-age kids that have COVID. And the good thing is we started doing a vaccine clinic Saturday for our little ones that are 5 to 11. We had 270 doses that we gave out on Saturday. They already have a follow-up date for their second dose. And the John Garside and the Health Department are now working with Bouvier Pharmacy to again do a second round of boosters for the students. In addition to that, we've had a couple of booster clinics over at the Council on Aging that have gone well. We also had one with Marlborough Housing that included Academy Knoll. So we're trying to work them in and get them in the process. So the boosters have been going out. And again, we're working on another clinic for just the booster shots. Overall percentages, 83% of the city of Marlborough has had 1 dose. 73% are fully vaccinated. Our younger students, the ones 5 to 11, prior to Saturday, all these numbers are prior to Saturday. I haven't added in the 270 students yet, but we were at 9% before we even did the clinic for those students. So we've doubled that to about 18, and we can anticipate we're going to go up a couple percentage points overall in the city on Thursday when the state comes out with the new numbers. With that, Mr. President, I'll answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. To you, to the mayor. You talked about the cases from the Marlborough Hospital being down to 1%. Are those the people that come in for some sort of treatment in the hospital and they just get tested as part of that process?
Some are sent there, some are tested there, some are brought in by ambulance. So obviously it's when, patients are having some difficulty, they get sent up there. Okay. That's down, I think, 1 in the last week. But it's been running a little bit higher than it had been for a while, and we're going to anticipate that we're going to see a jump after the holidays again. Sure. So again, as I stated several times, this is with us forever, like the flu. We just have to figure out how to manage it, and I'm sure the vaccines will mature with the new science that's involved in this, and we'll be getting better at it. But right now, we're managing our way through this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Orem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question
being the chair of the school committee, has discussion been occurring about mask use and how, if it's being handled properly at the schools? I see all the students wearing masks when I go by, but just curious if that's been discussed in the school committee.
Yeah, to this point, the state is given special permission for anyone that has over 80% of the school vaccinated, school meeting by building. I know this is going to be discussed as one of the topics tomorrow night at the school committee, but right now, all the kids are masked. One of the questions that Councilor Dumas had was on our traveling sports teams, not related to the schools, although using school facilities. My understanding is some of them have been a little lax, and we followed up with the health department and the people running the programs that it's required to have the kids with masks, even though at this point, hopefully, we'll be seeing those numbers drop after vaccinations. But we try to keep an eye out. The kids in the schools have been really good. The little kids don't even know the difference. They're so used to wearing them at this time. But I know it's going to be discussed tomorrow night. We're hoping to come up with some plan for maybe even after the holidays. So.
And just one additional question on the school population. Looking at the state data, the 5 to 19-year-olds are the highest percentage of this week from the data that I've been looking at. That obviously tells me that with that great percent of 5-year-olds to 19-year-olds being the highest percentage in Marlborough for the age populations, that it looks like that discussion you have, we're not close to that 80%, are we, yet to discuss mask use?
It's interesting. The higher level, the higher grade students, if you look on the state website, we're over 95% for both of those groups. But the superintendent has individual statistics that kick us down to around 75%. So we're trying to match the two numbers up, and it's been a little difficult, but the state's number has us at over 95% for all those 12 and over in our school population. And again, we're not able to match those up at this point. I know there's a lot of kids that go to school out of the district or homeschooled. They're included in the state's number, where we wouldn't have that. So it's just trying to get the information that's clear through. I mean, we've had some issues with some in our public safety and in our school system that, although vaccinated, won't turn over the vaccination cards, and it's their prerogative whether to do that or not. I really don't want to have to go to the mandated mask citywide, but we've talked about doing it if we can't get better cooperation. So,
well, thank you for the updates, and continue to keep us updated.
Thank you.
And take in all that data that we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Any other questions for the mayor? Any other questions for the mayor? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
Agenda item number 2.
Communication from City Council President Ossing regarding the reappointment of Councilor Michael Ossing to the OPEB Board of Trustees for a 2-year term.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion's made and second to accept and place on file. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Approved, 11-0. Agenda item number 3.
Communication from the mayor regarding a transfer request in the amount of $1,204,784, which moves funds from meals tax revenue account to fund fiscal year 22 bond payments associated with parks and recreation improvements.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, I would like to approve this tonight on the floor. This is going to make payments for the bond for the improvements of the parks. This is a meals option tax that we adopted many years ago. My motion would be to approve the transfer in the amount of $1,204,784 to fund the bond payments associated with parks and recreation improvements. Thank you.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the transfer to pay the bonds for the fields. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Orm.
Thank you. And while we have the mayor here, he might be able to help me with the question I have. I have 2. One is on the trends, because we have FY18, FY19 on the revenue projections as well as projections, and it looks like we're projecting for FY21 that the meals tax are going to go up to $1.25 million. versus FY '20 at 36,000, obviously, with 366,000. So that's almost looks like more than a 70% jump. Curious, is that projection based on the fact that the restaurants are doing much better, which I hope that is the case?
Ask for suspension of the rules, allow the mayor to speak.
Oh,
All those
okay.
in favor of suspension, allow the mayor to speak. It is approved. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. You could have answered that, you know.
I know, but
I did ask for the mayor. though, you know?
he asked for you.
No, I mean, obviously, the trend is going up for some of our restaurants. Some were closed during last year. We're hoping to get back to some normal numbers in the near future, but we see the trend going up in both the hotel tax and the meals tax. We're not back to where we were, but we're doing pretty well.
Excellent. That was a point that shows that from FY19 to FY20, we went down a little bit on the room tax. As you said, I know you're projecting 500,000. I presume you project these, or our finance team projects these numbers?
Yeah, we work together on it, and that's a real conservative number, to be honest with you.
Well, I remember you saying that when I questioned that before. And just one other question, if I may. The cannabis fees that we're going to be getting, right now, this year, we have $354,000 from the sale of cannabis. What will that be used for? Do we have a project, is that general fund, or?
Yeah, I mean, unlike most communities that, you know, we're using it to get by, we've been pretty fortunate, but at this point, it's going to be in the general fund. There are some fees that come out of that are going to be used for specific purpose, some of the nonprofits in the city, but we're trying to clarify that, because we just had our second facility open. The first one has made several payments to us over the last couple of years, and the other two are struggling to get moving. But that's why that order was put on your agenda tonight, because I'm not looking for more, but I also don't want them to be a big saleable commodity like a liquor license is today.
Understandable. And I thank you for that. I know it's outside the range of what we were discussing. And hopefully, I know we discussed cannabis when it was originally being proposed, that we earmarked some of those funds to addiction referral or whatever it may be. So I thank both of you for your, you for your answers, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to ask the questions.
You're welcome, Councilor. Any other questions for the mayor while he's up? If not, on the motion to approve the transfer, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0. Agenda item number 4.
Communication from the mayor regarding a proposed ordinance amendment to the Code of the City of Marlborough, Chapter 608 Water, Section 11 Entrance Fees, and Chapter 510 Sewer, Section 4 Building Sewer Connections, to adjust both water and sewer entrance fees based on significant demand on the system.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Finance Committee and to hold over to 2022, please.
Motion's made and seconded to refer to the Finance Committee and to hold it over to the next legislative session. And is there any discussion from the committee? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to refer to Finance and hold over until 2022. Agenda item number 5.
Communication from the mayor regarding proposed zoning amendment to the Code of the City of Marlborough, Chapter 650, zoning sections 17, 18, and 32, relative to the regulation of marijuana uses, incorporating recent regulatory amendments by the Cannabis Control Commission.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer this to Urban Affairs. Once it's in Urban Affairs, we will decide if we want to present it back to the council as a recommendation, or if we want to amend it. At that point, it would be public hearing date set and referred to the planning board for discussion. Thank you.
So motion made and seconded to refer to the Urban Affairs Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved to refer to Urban Affairs. Agenda item number 6.
Communication from the mayor regarding OPEB trust update.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the communication from the mayor, please.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication on the OPEB update. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Is approved to file 11-0. Agenda item number 7.
Communication from the mayor regarding a request to address the city council on the campus master development plan.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Over the course of several years, I've had several discussions and meetings with both the old owners and new owners of the campus, as well as Avalon. And over those meetings, I was consistent in my communication with them on the direction that we wanted to go, or I wanted to go, and that would be not to have housing up at that development. I've been consistent since the beginning, and I don't think anyone would dispute that. When they came in and changed the project and added hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial and industrial space, my feeling was 100 units would be fine, and I would support that. There was a request for a rezoning down at this council, and I was really concerned as to where the votes were and whether that was even going to pass. But with the change in project to where there were hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial space, I actually talked to some of you and told you how important this project was. Even though several of you were very, very concerned about the housing being built and nothing else being finished up there. I had the same concern, as well as Councilor Roby, the Chair of Urban Affairs, continually said, I'm concerned about the housing. My feeling was if we put a clause in there in the development agreement that said they would get 1 unit of housing for every 1,000 square feet completed of commercial and industrial, then that would protect the city from just doing the housing and moving forward. I know it was a difficult vote for some of you to do the rezoning, but it was approved. Somewhere in the process, the concerns about the housing got lost. And now I even understand that one of the big exciting things that they had up there was the restaurant and outdoor seating facility that they were going to put up there, and that's in jeopardy. I have nothing hard to suggest that other than it was relayed to me secondhand. Down at site plan, we heard in Urban Affairs that a concurrent project with all phases will be sent to site plan. Down at site plan, it was asked, where is the commercial side of this project? And they said, we're not here to discuss the commercial side of this project. We're only here for the residential. I heard during Urban Affairs that this project has been stalled for 15 years. This project hasn't been stalled for 15 years. They just weren't able to get what they wanted to do over the 15-year period, which was all housing. We get over $1.5 million from that project right up there now. And I have no problem with just moving forward and continually getting that tax revenue and forgetting about the rest of the project. I know several of you, again, through the Urban Affairs process, Councilor Navin talked about the issues with phasing and how are we going to assure that we're going to get those commercial areas. Again, Councilor Orem concerned about the same thing in the phasing. Councilor Dumas continually talked about his constituents and the taxpayers of the city talking about bringing in revenue. Over the years, Councilor Wagner talked about the affordability and the affordable housing that we have in the city and the concern with more affordable housing. One building up there, one 100,000 square foot building, takes in about $125,000 a year in taxes. It will repay all that mitigation that was discussed through the entire time during Urban Affairs. I don't care about the mitigation in the package. The project with the commercial is much more important to me than the mitigation that's been discussed. As I stated, the affordability that was barely discussed at all in committee, and I understand that because we've been talking about our percentage of affordable in the city at 11.3%, and we were in good shape. With all the projects that have been approved by this council and the ones that are before the city right now, comes out to 1,452 units. Only one of those projects that's been approved in the last couple of years has any affordable component, and that's the Green District, with 48 units. I'll be coming down with a plan to try to address this so we don't fall under the 10%, and we can move forward with some of these other projects that we have. One affordable unit right now in the state of Massachusetts, because of all the bureaucracy and red tape that you need to go through, is almost $400,000 to build. There's no way we're going to start building these affordable units. The only way they work is through the federal tax credits with private developers, unless they change their regulations and start making it so we can build some of these affordables. So with all that being said, our new percentage right now, if all those units were built that you've approved, or the ones that are before us now, we're at 10.01%. With 12 units over the 10%, and that doesn't include any single-family homes that have been built in the last couple of years, other than the Good Deal Estates. I think there's 9 units down there. Other than that, none of the other single-family homes that are in process will be included in that. So if it's more than 12, we're under the 10%. I heard discussions about taking the road down there. That was a road that the city owned. The prior owners wanted possession of that. We abandoned it. Why would we want to take that road back? Other than to do their maintenance and their improvements on it in the future, there is no reason to take that property back. We don't need to approve all projects in the city. We need to approve good projects in the city, the one that this city can benefit from, many of which you have approved over the last 10 years. All of us together, working together on this project. I've lost the trust, and I think that these developers and owners of the property in Avalon have lost their integrity and given a bait and switch to the city of Marlborough. Tonight, I ask you to send it back to Urban Affairs, add the language about 1 unit for every 1,000 square feet, and add 10% affordable housing on site. And if they don't want to do the project, they can take it somewhere else. Thank you, Mr. President, members.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item number 8.
Communication from Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding the application for modification of a special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of Garden Remedies, Inc., requesting to update the signage at the Marlborough Square Retail Plaza, 416 Boston Post Road East, in proper legal form, order number 21-100, 8417.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Because the item that's in unfinished business actually says that there is no report of the Urban Affairs Committee, and this was taken out of Urban Affairs, I'm going to, at this point in time, move to approve this. The city clerk can read the special permit language that he would typically read, so move to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the amendment to the special permit for Garden Remedies for the sign. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to read the lengthy conditions.
City Council, pursuant to its authority under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, and the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough, hereby grants the applicant an amendment to modify finding D16 of the original special permit in order to update the signage for the use as shown in Attachment A hereto by deleting finding D16 in its entirety and inserting in place the following: 16, signs and signage. Finding the proposed signs are appropriate for the use. All other conditions of the original special permit and the amended special permit shall continue in full force and effect and are incorporated by reference as part of this decision. And in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11, the applicant, its successors, and/or assigns at its expense shall record this special permit in the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds after the city clerk has certified that the 20-day period for appealing this special permit has elapsed, with no appeal having been filed, and before the applicant has applied to the building commissioner for a building permit. Upon recording, the applicant shall forthwith provide a copy of the recorded special permit to the city council office, the building department, and the city solicitor's office.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, councilors, you've heard these conditions for the special permit. A motion's been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilor Navin. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas votes yes.
Councilor Landers.
Councilor Landers votes yes.
Councilor Roby.
Councilor Roby votes yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera votes yes.
Councilor Wagner.
Councilor Wagner votes yes.
Councilor Irish.
Councilor Irish votes yes.
Councilor Ossing.
Councilor Ossing votes yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette votes yes.
Councilor Orem.
Councilor Orem votes yes.
And Councilor Pearlman.
Yes.
11 yea.
The motion to approve the amended special permit for garden remedies is approved. 11 in favor, none opposed. Agenda item number 9.
Communication from Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding request for executive session to discuss litigation strategy relative to WP Marlborough Mass Owner LLC versus the Marlborough City Council.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to postpone this till after number 20.
Motion made and seconded to move this item to after number 20. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Orem.
Just in case the listening audience is listening, which would be the listening audience, after agenda item number 20, we usually would adjourn because we have 20 items tonight, as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, but just in case they wanted to know, that's the intent, I believe, to move it after 20.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Since you've mentioned it, we will be adjourning, and then we will not be reconvening after executive session. So on the motion to move this item to the end of the meeting, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Agenda item number 10.
Communication from the Planning Board regarding a favorable recommendation on the proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650, Section 61, temporary moratorium for multifamily housing projects to extend the date to December 31st, 2021, as requested by the mayor. Order number 21-100, 8414A.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file the communication from the Planning Board. And while the communication is the topic, I would also move to suspend the rules to remove this from Urban Affairs to vote on this evening.
On the first one, on the motion's been made and second to accept and place on file the communications from the Planning Board. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to file 11-0. On the motion to suspend the rules to remove from Urban Affairs to present in front of the council and to put in the hands of the council. All those in favor? Hands up. Opposed? Is approved. 10-1. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. I think everybody at this table has their opinion already made, whether they want to approve the moratorium, which would get us through the end of December, or whether we want to vote no, which would be my personal opinion, and let it die and see what happens. I doubt between now and our next 2 meetings we're going to have anybody come to us with a proposal, but that's the options. So I'm going to move to not approve the moratorium.
Motion to deny. Yep.
Deny.
Motion made and seconded to deny the housing moratorium. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Councilor Orem. It's okay.
I always get confused on these votes.
Okay.
So if I vote no, I'm voting not to deny the moratorium. If I vote yes, I'm voting to deny the moratorium. Am I correct, Mr. President?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So that everybody's clear. A yes vote denies the housing moratorium. Everybody clear on that? I'm getting mostly nods. Okay.
So we're good.
Any other discussion on the motion? So on the motion to deny, an affirmative, please raise your hand if you want to deny. So that's an affirmative to deny the housing moratorium. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I make 7. So that's 7 to deny, so there will be no housing moratorium. Everybody's clear? All right. The motion to deny is approved. 7 in favor to deny, 4 opposed. Agenda item number 11.
Petition for Massachusetts Electric and Verizon New England to install 2 new poles, P651 and P65, on Bartlett Street.
Council Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please refer to Public Service Committee and schedule a public hearing, please.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Public Services Committee, and we'll set a public hearing for December 6th. And set a public hearing for December 6th. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to set to public service and a public hearing on December 6th. Agenda item number 12.
Communication from National Grid regarding public notice for review and comment on the 2022 yearly operational plan and vegetation management plan.
Councilor Tenera.
President, accept and place on file, please.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication from National Grid. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick. I would ask that we also forward it to the Board of Health, Conservation Agent, and the DPW.
Board of Health, Conservation Commission, and DPW. On the motion to accept and place on file and send to the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, and the DPW. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is approved 11-0. Agenda item 13.
Communications from the Department of Public Utilities regarding notice of filing and public hearing on the following: a petition of Eversource Gas Company for approval of its 3-year energy efficiency plan for 2022 through 2024. Petition of NStar Gas Company, DBA Eversource Energy, for approval of its 3-year efficiency plan for 2022 to 2024. Petition of Massachusetts Electric and Nantucket Electric for approval of its 3-year energy efficiency plan for 2022 through 2024. And a petition of NStar Electric, DBA Eversource Energy, of its 3-year energy efficiency plan for 2022 through 2024.
Councilor Tenera.
Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communications. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved 11-0. Agenda item 14.
Minutes, boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. President.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the minutes of the boards, commissions, and committees.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept and place on file all the minutes. Any discussions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved 11-0. Reports of committees. Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Council Personnel Committee met on November 9th. We had one item on the agenda. It started at 6:15. Order number 21-18428B. It's the reappointment of Priscilla Ryder as the Conservation Officer for a 3-year term. It's motioned by Councilor Doucette, seconded by Landers, voted 3-0, and then we were adjourned at 6:25.
Thank you,
Thank
Councilor Dumas. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a lengthy report. I will try to not go through some of it. The Urban Affairs Committee met on October 25th and then continued the meeting on Tuesday, November 9th. You have the details of who was present at the meeting and what was discussed. I will get down to the nitty-gritty. The chair began discussion on the comments of Mr. DePercio, beginning with the revised concept plan submitted in response to his comments. The revisions include adding a locus plan showing the minimum 40% open space, outlining the walking route on the sidewalks, a proposed summary table showing approximate total area of existing buildings, and a proposed parking summary table outlining parking areas on the site and showing the amenity area. Discussion then began on the revised development agreement. Attorney Tam reviewed the phasing and the impact of the market conditions with plans to submit site plan for both the BioRing 5 building and the residential component. There was discussion about the housing piece relative to phasing, the moratorium's effect on housing, and the mayor's proposal, but nothing was finalized. Other changes made to the development agreement include outlining a process for assessment future acceptance of Martin Angelo Drive as a public way, to specify that the existing sewer connection permit be allowed to lapse and each site plan submittal would be subject to the established rules for water, sewer, and changes were made in Exhibit C, the transportation mitigation, and Exhibit D, environmental strategies, following input from the city engineer. On November 9th, The committee continued discussion on the newly revised development agreement. Further changes were made, including changing once constructed to once completed, updating the date on the concept plan to October 25th, 2021, removing language in the housing section that discusses using the contribution for affordable housing and adding in that the City Council would designate a fund to transfer the money when received in that section, as well as Section 2.03 Fire Public Safety, adding in language to 2.04 Environmental Strategies to incorporate renewable energy, such as solar, wind, and geothermal, and adding to Exhibit D Environmental Strategies promotion of safe shared use of bicycles with signage and striping. There was a lengthy discussion on the phasing of the project and mitigation with several ideas presented. Attorney Tam offered a proposal to amend the mitigation for fire public safety for an initial payment of $25,000 within 5 days of the full execution of the development agreement, and thereafter for a second payment of $75,000 payable upon the earlier of 1, the issuance of an occupancy permit for the first new commercial building, or 2, the passage of 36 months from the date of signing the development agreement. The proposal was submitted to cover concerns of phasing of commercial buildings. Councilor Doucette moved to approve the amended development agreement and amended master concept plan incorporating the prior changes and those made on November 9th. The motion was seconded and carried 5-0. The petitioner will make the changes approved at this meeting, send out a revised copy, which I believe everybody received, and I will ask for a suspension tonight to have this referred to the solicitor to be put in proper form for inclusion on the December 6th agenda. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to comment on the mayor's comments or wait until we see what happens.
Well, you can, well, let me I'll second the motion's been made, and, well, first to suspend the rules, motion made, and second to suspend the rules to send the package to the solicitor. All those in favor of the suspension to send to the solicitor? Please stand. If you're in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I make 8. The suspension carries.
So that was the vote to suspend. Now,
Correct.
do you need a motion to actually refer?
Yep,
To take a vote?
that's correct.
So I'm going to move to refer this to the solicitor to be put in proper form and on our next meeting agenda.
Motion made and second to refer to the solicitor, put in proper form for the next meeting. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And the reason why I voted not to send it to the solicitor, because I actually agree with the mayor that this should be sent back to Urban Affairs to make sure that the phasing of the housing is done right, so it's coordinated with the development of office space. So, point well taken. You came up with a good fix. I like it. I'm willing to send it back to Urban Affairs and get this revisited. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other councilors? Councilor Wagner.
My concern on, and this is why I support it, is because what we've seen so often with these projects is one of the hardest obstacles is getting enough funding to complete the construction. So the housing, to me, is integral in getting this bigger picture, getting this bigger project done, which is going to bring considerable money into the city on tax revenue. And when I think about affordability, this is a lot of money coming in for many, many years potentially, which to me helps keep the tax rate low, which helps affordability for everybody in the city. So I'm concerned about putting these kind of restrictions and barriers that are going to make, it's already, we've seen projects fail, it's very hard to get the funding right now, and this is an opportunity to help make this project a little easier and maybe actually succeed in achieving their vision. And so putting that restriction, you only get this, you have to complete this in order to get this, it makes a difficult project even harder, and through our own restrictions could inevitably lead to the project running into trouble or even failing. So I'm not in support of putting those kind of restrictions on and want to see this project succeed.
Thank you, Councilor Wagner. Any other councilors? Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be very brief, but I mentioned at one of our meetings, you know, I don't have a problem with the 100 units of housing on that. If we were talking 350 units or something like that, you know, I might be a little concerned. But I think 100 units that Avalon does would just add to the project. It might even attract a few people that might figure, you know, maybe we ought to move forward on that. Some of our people might like living there, so I have no problem with the housing piece.
Thank you.
Let's move on it.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Councilor Navin.
Get it on there. Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I don't think it comes as any surprise to anyone who watched the urban meeting. I had some significant concerns about the phasing of this project. The mayor highlighted it tonight. I remain concerned about those phasing issues. I was grateful that the proponent did come and try to make some mitigation towards some of these concerns. The reason I vote to suspend tonight and send it to the solicitor to get in proper legal form is so we can have it before us, and then we can make that final vote on December 6th. And so, but I do appreciate the points the mayor made tonight. I think he has a right to be concerned. I think it's a good project. I want to see it all built, but you know, I think these are valid concerns, and people should think about it before we get there on December 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Navin. Anyone else? Councilor Orm.
I'd just like to reflect what Councilor Navin just said. I haven't made my decision yet, but out of fairness to the applicant, I think it's okay for me. That's why I voted in favor of suspension, so we can get it to the city solicitor and back. And hopefully maybe the mayor will send us some of the inside information that he presented today. My concern is the affordable housing in the percentage. If we are going to be at 10.0 something that he said, I'd like to see more information on that. So hopefully he'll listen to this meeting. I don't think he's here anymore, but I'd like to see, you know, he might have some information we didn't have. It's late, but you know, at least it came in before the vote. So I respect the fact that if he wishes to send us additional information on what he may know, that would be very helpful for us as a full body. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as the mayor had said, or I will remind everybody, we did have a discussion on the proposal that the mayor had actually submitted at the very first meeting that we had back on October 25th. I read the mayor's letter. I read what he had suggested we add in as a condition. No one suggested that it get added. There was an opportunity at that meeting. There was an opportunity at November 9th meeting when it got brought up again. I specifically stated I was not going to vote in favor of it, but that didn't mean that somebody could not have made the motion, and it was not made by anybody. So regarding the housing and the affordable housing, I think I also pointed out that it's very clear in our code that affordable housing is a part of a special permit, and that there is the opportunity for a builder with a special permit to buy out affordable housing, which is what this council has allowed to happen for a number of years. The Green Project, they are actually only buying out 10% of the 15 that they can buy out. That's why their number is what it is. What we cannot do by the code is under site plan, which is what this body will be doing when we get the approval of this project and look at the housing site plan. There's nothing that mandates affordable housing. Now, if the mayor was here, I would ask him, because Councilor Ossing and I had a conversation. The original Avalon housing was done with a site plan. The second housing was done with a special permit because we changed the development agreement. That housing is not being counted, I believe, and it should be. They should have been made to have affordable housing. If they didn't, I don't know whose fault that is, but I think that the fact that we have what we have now is an issue that this council has decided that they're allowing developers to buy out the housing. Specific to the road, we don't have to approve the road. The language in the document is very clear. It needs to go to the city engineer to look at. If the city engineer says it needs thousands of dollars to bring it up to condition that the city would accept it, and the developer says, thank you very much, we'll keep it a private road, it stays a private road. No big deal. I mean, it's not that much of an issue. So I personally am very happy for the mitigation, I think, as we all talked about in committee, and that's why we took out the language about affordable housing to use it to pay for. We want that money to go for the fire station that we know we're all going to be hopefully voting on at some point in the future. So I'm not sure where the votes will lie. It needs 8 votes. If this does get referred, it comes back at December 6th. I would urge you all to read the document carefully. It can be amended, but I see no sense in sending it back to committee and having another discussion on the mayor's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other councilors? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I actually rewatched the Urban Affairs meeting, and I didn't feel right when we left Urbans, which is why I rewatched it. I didn't feel right because I didn't think that we finished, and we didn't in Urban. Around the 55-minute mark, I believe, money was brought up, and then it went from the phasing right into mitigation, and there was never any closure or any further discussion on the phasing portion of it. I am not on Urban, so this is my chance to speak up, even more so. So what you will be sending to the city solicitor in this development plan is pretty much the whole project based on market value. There's a lot of language in there, and there's nothing concrete. It's only on market value. We all know in this housing economy, market value just means housing. There was 3 projects that was brought before us regarding residential units in this council on this term. All 3 were denied just on housing. So now I want you councilors to take a look at this plan, and you know that only the 100 residents is going to get built. If this housing was just before us, would you approve it? Because that's all you're getting based upon this plan. I wanted Building 5 to be a part of this. I still want Building 5 a part. The developers sat here and said that the city of Marlborough will get $5 million if everything is built. There's no guarantee anything is gonna get built except for the housing. I don't want to say there was double talk, but they dangle this, they're promising this. I want you councilors to stop and look and read what the development consists of. That's concrete. The only thing that will be built based upon this is the housing. The mayor said himself, they didn't even attempt to do site plan review for Building 5. That's concerning to me. The taxes that are coming in for this project is where we need to be looking at. The only taxes that are coming in is for the housing, because that's what's being built. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Any other councilors? Councilor Roby.
Sorry, I don't mean to belabor this, but I do want to. I think I made it clear in the minutes. I actually watched both meetings again to make sure I got all the details. My comments on November 9th, there was lengthy discussion on phasing, and my final comment, the proposal was submitted to cover concerns of phasing. So my sense of the committee was that the mitigation that they offered, the option 1, option 2, for how the $75,000 covered the concerns of the commercial piece. They also told us very adamantly that they're not going to build a building without someone to go in it. They're not going to do another empty building, and we have a few of those sitting around in the city of Marlborough, and they don't have someone to go into the building now. They had a client. That client decided not to go forward. So can we make them build a building? Yeah, with no tenant in it. So what good is that going to get us as a city? If we let them work on a person person's company to come in, knowing that we're willing to let them go forward with this development agreement. They may have somebody that they are willing to build that building, and we'll get it built. So I'm not as concerned about the commercial piece as some of the other people are, maybe, and as the mayor is. The mayor talked to me when we were going to be voting on the original rezoning. I was adamant that I didn't want the housing. This body approved the housing. Now we need to figure out how the housing is going to work with everything else, and I thought we did a pretty good job at Urban Affairs on making that process go through. If the ward councilor is unhappy, the ward council will not vote in favor of this. But I don't see forcing a developer to put a building up with no tenant in it is going to help anybody in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Anyone else? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Quick point of order. When this comes back on the 6th, it requires 8 votes?
That is correct.
Okay, so there were 4 people that did not want to get this sent to legal, so that says a lot. But anyway, I think, you know, my concern is very similar to Councilor Dumas as far as, you know, they may build the housing, 100 units, you know, and then wait, 3, 5 years, and submit a special permit to take another chunk. Because that's kind of what happened in the results way to begin with. You know, they said, oh, we'll do housing and all this, and then they had some open space, and, oh, we'll do more housing here, you know. So my concern is the campus will end up being not just 100 units, but more than that. So, and I think having this go back to Urban Affairs, I don't see the issue with that because, you know, this shouldn't be the housing. It should be the business. It should be about the businesses. Okay, and they still need to find the businesses. When they find the businesses, the housing will go up real quick. Okay, they know that to a science. You know, they can bang that out real fast. But we need to get the businesses into the city first and have them focus on that, not have the housing drag the thing in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Dumas.
I was just going to be petty and say you build a residential unit without tenants, say you build a business without any clients. Like, that's the nature of investment. So to say not to build the commercial building because they don't have a tenant doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're doing that with the 100 units. So to me, that does not make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Anyone else? Just a couple of points of information from what I heard. The vote was 8-3. Councilor Doucette. As far as the limit is 100 to that. You have to require a zoning change to change it from 100 if you want to go to more than 100, but it is limited 100. Regarding the mayor's speech, I ask you all to weigh carefully his information on affordable. None of that's official. I can spout out a bunch of numbers too. So do your diligence and check that number. Don't just rely just because it was said here. It's okay to have disagreements with the mayor. Remember, our job as a council is to approve projects. And so far, this legislative term, anybody want to know how many we've done? You've heard me say it a couple of times already. Because I'm going to hear it again in 2 weeks when it comes to tax time, because that's when it's really going to settle in. Okay? So you heard what the mayor said, but take it with a grain of salt. Do your homework and make sure what he said is valid. Because if we're at 10:01, we're at 10:01 for 10 years. The numbers do not change. They get set at the census date, and that's it. So if he thinks it's 10.001, we're okay. All right? So don't let the scare tactics influence your ability to make a sound decision on a vision of what you want that project to be. With that, there's only 6 votes to send it to the solicitor, just in case anybody asks. On the motion that's been made and seconded to send the recommendation of Urban Affairs to the solicitor put in proper format. Any further discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I make 8. Vote is 8-3. It is sent to the solicitor put in proper legal format. Moving on. Any other reports of committees? Everybody good? Agenda item 15.
Order number 21-100, 8408, the appointment of Christopher Fioricano as City Collector, Assistant Director of Finance for a 2-year term to expire the day following approval by the City Council. Recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve?
Motion made and seconded to approve the appointment. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved, 11-0. Agenda item 16.
Order number 21-100, 8412, the appointment of Donna Scalcione to the Council on Aging for a 4-year term from the date of council approval. Recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve?
Motion made and seconded to approve the appointment. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved, 11-0. Agenda item 17.
Order number 21-100, 8413, the appointment of Raymond McGee to the Council on Aging Board for a 4-year term from date of council approval. Recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas.
Motion to approve?
Motion made and seconded to approve the appointment. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Agenda item number 18. Yes, you have to read them.
Order number 21-100, 8428A, the reappointment of Mark Gibbs as Director of Data Processing for a 3-year term from date of council confirmation. Recommendation of the Personnel Committee is to approve.
Councilor Dumas, make them wait a little.
I'm not sure about that. Motion to approve?
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Gibbs, if you're watching. Agenda item 19.
Order number 21-100, 8427, transfer request in the amount of $146,288, which moves funds from PEG funds to IT equipment to fund the purchase of an electronic time system and equipment. And the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the transfer, please.
Motion made and seconded to approve the transfer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. Agenda item 20 we can just dispose of or just to file it?
That's fine.
I'll take a motion just to file number 20.
Yes, and I don't think I made a motion to file the communication. Do you want that motion to back on number 8?
Sure. Sure. File number 8.
File them both.
Motion made and seconded to file number 20 and file the communication from the solicitor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved. 11-0. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go into executive session. I need the clerk to read the rules. I would ask the council chambers to be cleared, because when we go into executive session, we will not be reconvening. Everybody clear on that? So we'll be adjourning the public portion of the meeting. We'll miss you, Mike. We'll be adjourning the public portion of the meeting and then reconvening to go into executive session. So I'll ask the clerk to read the order, please.
Move that the Marlborough City Council meet in executive session under Purpose 3 of the Open Meeting Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body regarding the pending matter, WP Marlborough Mass Owner LLC versus Marlborough City Council. As the chair hereby declares that discussion in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the city and the city council's litigating position, the city council will not reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Councilor Roby. Motion to approve the order. Someone's got to approve the order so we can vote on it.
Motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into approve the order to go into executive session. There'll be a roll call vote.
Councilor Irish.
Yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Yes.
Councilor Oram.
Yes.
Councilor Perlman.
Yes.
Councilor Wagner.
Yes.
Councilor Navin.
Yes.
Councilor Roby.
Yes.
Councilor Ossing.
Yes.
Councilor Landers.
Yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Yes.
Councilor Tenera.
Yes.
11 yeas, sir.
Motion's been made to, roll call's been confirmed to go into executive session by a vote of 11 in favor, none opposed. We will go into executive session. We will close the public portion of the meeting, and we will not be reconvening. Everybody clear? Okay, on that note, we are now closed from the public portion of the meeting at